Late night tech support. I posted this on Reddit No Sleep a few days ago, and I wanted people's opinions on Reddit Paranormal to see if anyone has any advice for me. A few of you may remember me from my posts about my experiences as a Mormon missionary, and I've never experienced anything weird since October 21st, 2014. Yesterday that changed, and I'm worried beyond belief that my past is coming back to haunt me. It may not seem like much right now, but please hear me out. If anyone wants some context behind why I'm so terrified, you can go to my profile and read the 13-part post that I made about my experiences while serving. I recently started a job working from 1 a.m. to noon as part of a two-man team. We work alone from 1 a.m. to 6 a.m. Some weird things happen during the hours if it is just the two of us. As a bit of background information, I work on VoIP phones for business clients, so unless it's a real emergency, the lines are dead. So I get to browse the web between calls and maybe 10 calls home in about 5 hours we are alone. It is a secured building, and you require a badge to enter after between 8 p.m. and 8 a.m., and all the other businesses that use the building are gone by 6 p.m. Yesterday was my first day on this particular shift. I'm with another guy who trained with me, and we are both exhausted. Neither of us are accustomed to these hours, so we are trying to find different ways to keep each other awake between calls. So obviously shenanigans ensued, throwing things, calling each other's phones to see if the other nodding off, and just regular shooting the shit. About 2 a.m., we see another business's lights turn on across the hallway. We both have glass double doors, so it's really easy to see, at least partially, into the other's office. We immediately notify building security because we were told we were going to be the only two people in this building for those 5 hours, and to report anything out of the ordinary. We watched the doors to see if anyone came out to give a description to security if they didn't get there in time. The lights turn off a few minutes before security gets there, and after doing the sweeps, security lets us know no one was in there. There is only one fire exit in that office, and the only other door is connected to the lobby, like ours, so to escape, they'd have to pass by us. We get yelled at by security for the false report, and we go back to work. Not 5 minutes later, all the lights in our office turn off. The breaker is in the employee break room right in front of my desk, and my coworker sits right next to me, so neither of us did it. The lights came back on after about 30 seconds, but it still scared both of us. An hour later, both of our phones ring simultaneously once and then stop. It happened again about 20 minutes later, but nothing shows up in our call history or call queue logs. It's now been 90 minutes into my shift today, and the lights in the across office has just turned on. Updates: we called security again, and they didn't find anyone in the office next door. They are not happy with us as they cover 4 other buildings on the property and don't enjoy having to walk around. They didn't find anything again and gave us a warning about false alarms. Update 2. The lights in the main office across the hall turned on again. No signs of movement inside. There is only a fire exit in these besides the main exit into the lobbies facing us. The office is secured and needs a key card just like ours to get in. My phone rang twice this time. I tried to answer it, but all I got in the end was just a dial tone. Updates again. So, I ran into a few people that also work overnights in some of the other buildings on the property today, and they also have some weird things happening in their buildings. Unlike my building, they have multiple people on different floors at all hours of the day, but only about 5 people per floor in off hours. From what they told me, their building, which is much newer than mine, they have varying degrees of creepy things that happen from time to time. One of the guys told me that the happenings are all caused by one spirit that haunts the entire property and moves from building to building to building on different nights. As he says, there will be entire days where nothing will happen. Then one night, things will get really bad just on one floor, while the others are left, seemingly, alone. I like to cross-reference any future happenings with them and see if this lines up. One girl suspects it's the old property owner whose family sold the property to the city of Denver shortly after his passing, and he's not happy about it. I have yet to look into these claims, but it is an interesting theory nonetheless. I'll try to look into the history of the property and see if I can find anything else for you guys. The only thing that's weird that's happened tonight was the AC kicked on around 2:30, which our building manager has told me that he hasn't had the maintenance guy in the building to change the operations times for the furnace and air conditioning to operate during our new production hours yet. So the AC should not have turned on. It is very possible maintenance already knew that we were changing our hours and, change the operating times, but why would the AC turn on instead of the heat? User error maybe, I'm not sure. I'll have to confirm this with maintenance tomorrow. I've noticed all of the weird stuff starts happening around 2:30 on my floor, as no one else works on the other floors past 6 p.m. I would have to explore the other floors on my lunch break and see if anything happens. I'll keep you all updated as things progress. Updates again. I was not able to find any information regarding this property prior to it being purchased by the city of Centennial back in 2001. I believe this was just state land that the city purchased to start building the infrastructure back in 1998. So there goes the old farmer theory. I've spoken to those same people yesterday, and they were saying all sorts of weird things were happening. The elevator moving up to their floor and staying open, as if someone was standing in the doorway holding it open. Nothing of interest happened yesterday. However, I am alone in the building tonight, as my coworker is telecommuting today. I have downloaded automatic audio recorder on my phone, and I'm going to leave it on the second floor. That is completely empty, and see if anything gets picked up. If anyone has advice on a different app to use to record any sound that gets picked up, please let me know. I checked with maintenance and they said that they were never told to change the hours, and the AC kicked in from the property owner, so it's supposed to be off all weekend and not supposed to just turn off like that or turn on like that from 8 p.m. Friday night, and it's not supposed to kick back on again until 6 a.m. Monday morning. Not even the fan is supposed to turn on, though. They just leave the air stagnant all weekend, which, I find rather gross, to be honest. Update again. So, it's been almost 90 minutes since I left my phone up there. I decided to check it to see if anything happened so far, and there is no recordings. However, my phone has moved. Now, I placed my phone in the center of a circular table, and when I returned, it was almost on the edge. I just tested the app, and it doesn't pick up recordings when slid across the table. Update again. I put my phone back shortly after I retrieved it, and when I returned to get it just now, there were still no recordings. However, the elevator had just moved to the third floor, and the TV had been turned on the second floor where my phone was. Call center phone call with a ghost? Now, this happened in Chile. I'm not sure if the story that I'm about to tell you is fake or not. I would have a hard time trying to be skeptical, though. For experience, I know that you hear a lot of scary, creepy, and downright mysterious stuff when you're working at a call center. However, here are the highlights of this particular one that I heard from a long time ago. The operator is a CC operator from a children's foundation who held a phone call with a man. The call goes as any regular phone call that you'd expect. The operator even explains about the foundation to the old man seeking for donations. The man is really polite sounding and cheerful, though as the phone call progresses, there is no hissing sound resulting from the air blown through the lips onto the handset, such as one would hear when the operator's voice and later that of the wife's. After a short while, the man says he'll have to consult with his wife about the donations and that he'll be happy to pick up the call later. So, the operator schedules a call after 6 p.m. When a second call is made, a woman picks up the phone. The operator then asks for Mr. Gonzalo. The wife doesn't seem at all surprised at first, as you'll often pick up calls from CC from banks and stuff seeking for a relative that might be long gone. But her tone changes drastically upon hearing that the operator had talked to her husband earlier that day, to which the old woman replies that Mr. Gonzalo's been dead for 14 months after a tragic traffic accident. The operator sounds baffled. Of course you wouldn't believe such a thing. So she insists about Mr. Gonzalo, and after a few moments the wife broke down in tears. She's so happy and sad that her husband is still around, taking care of her. The wife then asks if Mr. Gonzalo said anything about his wife to the operator, as it is often a common belief that dead relatives speaking to another living person would share a message from beyond for their loved ones. Sadly, this is not the case though. The operator remains in line for several minutes with the widow now, trying to cheer her up, as she clearly heard Mr. Gonzalo quite happy. The widow keeps crying, repeating how she is happy that his loved husband is still there, caring for her even in the afterlife. Even the operator seems understanding, due to the woman's tears, until the call ends. A call from the other side. So, here's a bit of backstory. I work at a hospital for a large healthcare system on night shift, 11 p.m. to 7:30 a.m., as a PBX operator. After 2 a.m., my coworker leaves and I am by myself until 6, when the next person arrives to start the morning shift. My job consists of answering incoming phone calls for the hospital itself, where my office is located, answering service calls, patients calling to have the doctor on-call paged due to an urgent but not emergency medical issue, internal paging for the hospital, alarm protective service calls, code response, and answering calls to and from the medical campus building that is across the street from the main hospital. Closed at night, reopens at 8 a.m. The medical campus building was formerly another inpatient hospital, a block of doctors' offices, and an outpatient surgical center, not related to the main hospital, until the healthcare system I work for bought them out and turned it into a medical campus by axing the emergency department and turning said area into an outpatient occupational health, physical therapy, wound clinic, and infusion clinic areas. I've always heard the ladies that I work with talk about the GHOST over there, and heard all about their experiences with it, as the office space for the PBX operators used to be based in the basement of the medical campus building. Some reported hearing breathing, while others reported feeling weird and having their chair tugged upon while they were working. Some claimed to have seen a female figure wearing an old-style nurse's uniform, hat and all, wandering the halls. I'd only been working there for the system in about 10 months, so I kind of just brushed it off as if they were just yanking my chain as kind of a newbie disorientation per se. Let's just say that tonight, well, last night now, but who cares really really made me change my mind. It was about 1:30 a.m.-ish. I just returned to my desk from my restroom break before my coworker left, and I was to be alone. I sat down, slipped my headset over my ear, got settled in, and returned my console to idle mode so I could continue receiving phone calls. About 10 minutes after I had sat down, my console rang, showing the extension for the infusion clinic at the medical campus across the street. I answered the phone with my usual, "Operator, how may I help you?" There was no answer on the other end of the line and only static. Thinking nothing of it, I disconnected my line and watched the console as the other line disconnected from my loop. My coworker chimes in, "Yeah, the phones in the infusion clinic do that from time to time. It's nothing to be worried about." We sit there for the remainder of the time until it's 2 a.m. and time for her to leave. Calls were pretty steady tonight, as labor and delivery were pretty busy, and nurses needed doctors and so on and so forth. 3:15 a.m. rolls around, and I was in a bit of a lull, and my console rang again. It was the infusion clinic once again, so I answered it in the normal fashion. I got no response, only to hear static for a few seconds, and suddenly the line disconnected as if someone had slammed the handset down onto the telephone. So I was a bit concerned at this point. The infusion clinic is a secured unit. It requires everyone to be buzzed and escorted inside. The main entrance door is only accessible by key during the night, a key only possessed by protective services on a 24/7 basis. Maintenance, who goes off duty at 5 p.m. and is not back on duty until 8 a.m., and the unit coordinators whose normal hours are the same hours that the infusion clinic is open. Almost every door in the unit is secured by RFID locks, keys, some have pins, and fingerprint readers, excluding the exam rooms. Security is so tight because the infusion clinic is where they do for the chemotherapies, radioactive tracers for PET scans, and other highly potent drugs are kept, and it is also attached to the pharmacy for the surgical center. Basically, a very, very high-value target to the drug addicts of the town that I live in. I let it go and disconnected from the loop, and answered the call that was parked behind the call from the infusion clinic. I complete the tasks that were required for the call and disconnected from the loop. About 5 minutes later, my console rang once again. I became infuriated when Infusion Clinic extension 7904 popped up on my screen because I knew that the infusion clinic was closed. I answered the phone once again in normal but distraught fashion, only to get no response, only hearing static. I say my greeting once again, no response, only static, and then say it a third time. No response. I disconnect from the loop. I sat for a second thinking what in the hell is going on over there. So I call protective services to let them know what is going on and that I am getting these static phone calls, and ask them to go check it out to see if maybe the phone is acting up or a folder or something fell on it. The supervisor answers the phone, and after advising him of the situation, he jokingly replies, "Well, we do have a ghost over there, but we will go check it out for ya." Supervisor radios the officer over at the medical campus building and advises him of the situation. Turns out he was on the 3rd floor of the surgery center conducting his rounds and chatting it up with the smoking hot nurses and techs in the sleep lab. Before you get all pissy, they are confined to that unit, as it is also a secure unit at night and not permitted to leave unless it's through the hematology lab doors, nowhere near the infusion clinic. I heard him on the two-way radio next to me as he is heading down to the infusion clinic. Then the radio traffics become this. Unit 3 in almost a whisper. I got loud footsteps over here, near the infusion clinic. Hurry up and get me another officer over here. I'm staged and drawn, meaning gun drawn, in the hallway, facing the infusion clinic center entrance. Unit 3, did you say you needed another unit? Yes, I need another and fast. I got loud footsteps near the infusion clinic. It sounds like there's an intruder inside the infusion clinic. Supervisor is running out the main hospital door to his cruiser. Unit 3, where are you? I'm on my way. I'm staged and drawn in the hallway, facing the infusion clinic door. Clear. Sit tight if you can. I'm on the way. A few minutes passed. 10. Hurry the hell up. They're inside the infusion clinic and they're getting closer to the door. I'm coming indoor now. I'll come up right next to you. Make room. Does there appear to be any signs of forced entry? No, but it sounds like they're currently walking away from the door. Coming around the corner now. 10 to operator. I've contacted the PD. If they call in, advise them we are there. You're clear. PD shows up pretty quick, and they split up. One team goes through the infusion clinic pharmacy, and the other team goes through the wound clinic, which is directly across the hall from the infusion clinic. After about 5 minutes. We're all clear in the wound clinic. Well, we're all clear in the infusion clinic. There's no one down here. We went room by room and we didn't find anything. We did the same. Negative on anyone. We should check the cameras to see where they took off to. I know someone had to have been in there. Unit 8, check the cameras now. I've been on it since the operator called. There was no one in that area since 6:15 p.m. I've watched the footage of all the ways to go into that area, 3 doors, and there was no one after 6:15 when maintenance turned out the lights and left for the day. 8, you're sure that you didn't see anyone? Affirmative, no one at all. Are you fucking with me? You seriously didn't see anything? No, there was no one in that area during that time frame. There had to be someone in there to be making that loud of footsteps. There's no way. As his radio transmission ends without him finishing a sentence. Can someone explain why the PD officers and myself have goosebumps all over? Don't feel bad. My hair is on edge and my heart is pounding out of my chest at the moment. Operator, can you ring that extension so we can see what phone it is? Certainly, stand by. I ring extension 7904, the infusion clinic. Operator, we can hear the phone ringing. It's the red phone. In the med room behind the infusion clinic nurses station. We don't even have a key to get into that room, and it's also fingerprint protected. No visible signs of forced entry, and the K9 is not alerting to anyone inside that room. Are you sure that you have the correct extension? Stand by. I'll call again. I looked under the door and through the windows and no one is in that room. I ring extension 7904 again. Same results. We're getting the hell out of here. We're officially creeped the hell out. There's no way that someone is in here. I'm securing the door now and we are all leaving. 8. Watch the cameras just in case someone tries to bolt. I'm gonna shut the fire doors in the hallway. If you see the slightest bit of movement, let me know. We're gonna go check the lab and x-ray departments, while 3 and his team check the front. Unit 3. I hate to say this, but I think, yeah, we're clear over here too. No movement on my end. It's time to leave. Everyone get the fuck out. Lock and double check the doors behind you. Operator, if that extension calls again, don't hang up. And don't let it close the line. So after the manhunt was over and everyone was gone, I pulled the floor plan book for the medical campus, which still contained the map from the era that the emergency department was still in operation. Turns out that the current nurses station for the infusion clinic was the same nurses station that was in place during the era of the emergency department. Could this be the white uniformed nurse calling for assistance? Okay, so I need to explain the code phone too. Our current code phone system operates on a series of number presses, kind of like dialing 911. Back in the day, these red phones were a direct line to the PBX operators. When the handset was picked up, the phone rang the red phone in the switchboard, and the operator then took the call, paged the applicable parties to respond to the code, and announced it on the PA system overhead. With the current system, these red phones do not work like they did. Someone calling has to pick up the handset and is required to dial the series of numbers to reach the code phone. Whoever was dialing from that extension had to be intelligent enough to dial the number. But how did they know this number? This number is universally known to employees, both in physical form and in spirit. Funny part is, she didn't call the code phone. She didn't just dial 0. She dialed the extension for the switchboard, an extension that no one has used for years and has even been removed from the directory. I didn't receive any more calls from that extension for the rest of the night, and the protective service officers were quiet for the remainder of the night. I think that I can officially say that I had a run-in with the white uniformed nurse. I haven't seen her, but she knows my voice now. Hopefully, she will show herself sometime, even though I'll most likely shit and piss all over my cargo pants when I see her. But it'll definitely be worth it. My office is right down the hall from the morgue, one flight of stairs away from both the emergency department and the mental health unit. Of all places, I thought I'd be the first to see or feel something in my office. But instead, she likes to call me on the phone.